Mr. President, a few years ago, mainstream news articles trumpeted supposedly stunning news out of Scandinavia. Iceland was close to eliminating Down syndrome. Eureka! Fantastic. How is it possible? Had these Icelandic scientists discovered some amazing and miraculous new gene therapy? No, they hadn't. Because Iceland wasn't eliminating Down syndrome, Iceland was eliminating babies with Down syndrome, using prenatal testing to identify genetic anomalies and then aborting the babies that had those anomalies. According to one Icelandic genetic counselor, and this is a direct quote, I'm not making it up, you might think I am, quote, "We don't look at abortion as a murder. We look at it as a thing that we ended." Imagine how ghoulish that is. That's what this counselor and some like him believe, that a baby is just a thing. But if they're honest with themselves, I think if they look in their hearts, they know the truth. Babies with Down syndrome aren't just things. They are living human beings of inestimable value who are loved by their Creator, even if they aren't protected by the law or valued by too many in society. Sadly, Iceland is no exception. In many parts of the world, a Down syndrome diagnosis is tantamount to a death sentence. And while in America, thankfully, we are more welcoming, sadly, we still terminate roughly 2/3 of babies diagnosed with this genetic condition. That needs to change. A civilized nation has a responsibility to protect our most vulnerable people, and that means we have an obligation especially to protect unborn babies with Down syndrome. My home state of Arkansas passed a law to do just that, to make it illegal for an abortionist to perform an abortion if they know it is motivated solely by a Down syndrome diagnosis. You would think this law would be uncontroversial. You would think a country that cares about ending discrimination against people with disabilities would leap at the chance to outlaw a particularly evil and final form of discrimination. After all, this Congress has taken many steps in recent years to protect those with disabilities. But no, you would be wrong. That's not what happened. The abortion lobby kicked into high gear and got a liberal judge to block Arkansas's pro-life law from going into effect. The Pro-Abortion Guttmacher Institute denounced the laws to protect babies with Down syndrome as dangerous and coercive. Now, this should not be surprising coming from the Guttmacher Institute. After all, it's named after a former leader of the American Eugenics Society, as so many abortion advocates can also trace their lineage to the dark so-called science of eugenics early last century. These modern-day eugenicists and a few liberal activist judges are putting babies with Down syndrome at grave risk every day. These babies can find no refuge under the laws of many of our states and our nation. But thankfully, that may be changing. The state of Arkansas is fighting to save its pro-life law in court, and tomorrow I and Representative Ashley Hinson, along with many of my colleagues in Congress, will submit an amicus brief urging the court to protect these most innocent and vulnerable young babies. Time will only tell if the courts will hear these pleas. But while we will make the most persuasive legal arguments available on the law and the facts, I must add that the most effective advocates for justice will always remain those little babies with Down syndrome and the parents who brought them bravely into this world. They'll be the first to tell you that a person with Down syndrome isn't a burden. It isn't just a thing, to quote the Icelandic eugenicist. These babies are persons. They are fearfully and wonderfully made. They are created equal in the eyes of an image of God, just like each and every one of us. So let us fervently pray that one day, soon, our laws will reflect this very basic truth and protect these innocent children. Mr. President, yield the floor. Note the absence of a quorum.